The following is a special presentation from NBC5 News. The Winter Weather Special is brought to you by the Cow Creek Umpqua Tribe and Southern Oregon Subaru.
Hello and welcome to KOBI-TV NBC5's Winter Weather Special. I'm meteorologist Kevin Lawless. Today's special is made possible thanks to our ongoing partnership with the Cow Creek Umpqua Tribe. I'm on the top of Mount Ashland, which of course is a perfect place to experience everything Southern Oregon and Northern California winters have to offer. Tonight, Matt Jordan, our chief meteorologist, and Bobby Johnston, our morning meteorologist, and myself, we'll talk a little bit about 2024, take a look at the year in review, and of course we'll also talk about the year coming up, what kind of winter we may get, and finally we'll give you some tips and tricks to prepare for winter weather travel. First, we'll head down the mountain to the KOBI-TV NBC5 studio, where Bobby Johnston has our 2024 weather year in review. Bobby?
Thanks, Kevin. I sure am glad I am here in the studio because it looks cold up there at Mount Ashland. We're taking a look, first of all, at the 2023-2024 winter season. We'll talk a little bit about spring and summer and what's to expect as we're getting into this 2024 season. That's going to be a little bit later. But looking at 2023 and 2024, we're starting off with the snow depth up at Crater Lake. Now, this is important. This line that goes right here, that's your 1991 to 2020 average line of that snow depth up at Crater Lake. And what you see is we fall a little bit below that as we get into the later days of December through early January. January 1st, the snow depth is 30 inches. But it doesn't take long for it to catch up. Just 2 weeks later, a 5-foot climb in that snow depth up to 90 inches of snow. We get into peak winter and the depth of the snow gets up to 148 inches. That's over 12 feet of snow up there. Looking a little bit back in January, Al Augustine up there at Crater Lake sitting in this beautiful photo. And then we get into the later winter season, February 29th, and look at this. Looking at the visitor center, can't really even tell there's a visitor center there, but look at this. Just a few days later, that camera completely covered in snow. And yeah, that's whenever we were getting over 12 feet of snow, snow packed up there at Crater Lake. And it was also a slow start for our ski season. The 60th opening season at Mount Ashland ski area delayed until January 11th. Mount Shasta was delayed until January 10th. Again, that's the big first snowstorm of the season. And it wasn't only our mountains getting snow. We also had snow on the valley floor. A couple of viewer photos sent in. Kathy Cooper, Ashland Winter Wonderland, and bearing the cold to take this photo for sure. Pete Bedell also showing that winter wonderland. And even here in Medford, me and my wife got out later that evening to walk the dogs, and just a beautiful snowy Medford as that snow came all the way down to the valley floor. We get into March. Remember that next big storm? Well, hey, it snowed in March too. Second year hosting on the Polar Plunge, and the second year in a row we've gotten snow for the Polar Plunge. And where things look cold, boy, that water was so much colder. Always a fun event out there, especially when it is snowing. And with that March storm, we did get some snow on the coastline. Grant Seabolt, Sports Haven Beach sending in this photo. Of course, that's not sand, that is snow on the coast. Now, besides those two storms, it was actually quite warm for this past winter. In fact, December and January both at the second warmest. And you see the above average temperatures. That's the average for December and January, over 5 degrees warmer than the average. In fact, January 30th, we broke the all-time record high for the month of January in Medford of 73 degrees. Now, it wasn't as warm for the month of February. We cooled off a little bit, but still above that average. And when you average these out, it was the warmest winter season Medford has had, 2023 to 2024, averaging 45.4 degrees, beating the old record set back in 2014 and 2015, just 0.1 degrees off. Now, where Medford was the highest, that wasn't the case for all of our area. 6th warmest in Klamath Falls and Alturas. Mount Shasta City tied the 2nd warmest, North Bend and Roseburg the 3rd warmest winter season. And where it was warm the winter, we get into spring now, quite the opposite. Slight cool off for the spring season. We were below the normal for not only March, but also April. April, the biggest drop off, 2 degrees below where we normally are. And not too much of a warm up into May compared to that seasonal average. You can see even our eastern counties was pretty normal, but slightly cooler than average. Quite the opposite though, when we get into summer, both June and July was quite warm, especially July, but August slightly cooler than average for both Medford and Klamath Falls. Now, when we look at our water year, this goes from October 1st of 2023 to October 1st, 2024. Here's the rain totals parts of our area received and where they normally are. The departure from that, you can see above normal for North Bend going towards Mount Shasta over a few inches, Roseburg over by half of an inch. Deficits for Medford, Klamath Falls, and Alturas weren't too far off, but a bigger deficit for Montague, 3 inches below where they normally are, staying below 10 inches of rain for the city. Now, with the water year and, of course, the seasons, we look at the drought monitor. This helps to kind of determine where things are. We did see improvement from winter to spring with the drought monitor. That's good news. And then we get into the warmer, drier summer, and those drought conditions continue to worsen. So what's in store for this 2024-2025 winter season? Well, we'll head back up to Mount Ashland. Kevin has more details.
Thanks, Bobby. When we come back, we'll hear from the team at Mount Ashland about what they expect heading into the winter season. Plus, we'll focus our attention on the skies and recap some of the awesome astronomical events of the last year.
Now, back to the winter weather special from NBC5 News.
Welcome back. Once again, we're on top of Mount Ashland, the highest peak in the Siskiyou Mountain Range and home to the Mount Ashland Ski Park. Winter weather is a big deal here, but earlier this year, the mountain was just one of the great places to catch some spectacular sights in the skies. Let's head back down into the valley to explore some of the awe-inspiring space weather of the last year. If you're a sky watcher, 2024 was a banner year. Most of the annual events were spectacular. The meteor showers, the August blue moon, the supermoons of September, October, and November. But the real show was the rare events. 2024 brought us a penumbral lunar eclipse on March 25th, a partial lunar eclipse on September 18th, and an annular solar eclipse on October 2nd. Several comets made an appearance in 2024, including 2 that were visible to the naked eye. Pons Brooks in April and Shushan Atlas in October. Pictures flooded into us here at KOBI, and our morning news team shared them on our Snaps on Sunrise segment. But by far, the biggest skywatching event of the year were all due to the solar maximum and the resultant solar storms of May and October. Many of you took the time to move away from the city lights and sent us the pictures you took of the aurora borealis visible here in Southern Oregon and Northern California. 2025 will also give us some sky-watching oohs and ahs. In March, we'll see 2 eclipses. A total lunar eclipse will be visible across our region on the 14th, and a partial solar eclipse on the 29th. 2 more eclipses occur in September, a total lunar eclipse on the 7th and a partial solar eclipse on the 21st. There'll also be plenty of chances to see some shooting stars with all the usual meteor showers, providing multiple opportunities to get outside and see one of Mother Nature's most amazing fireworks displays. All the information you need to find out how to look, where to look, and when to look for shooting stars can be found online. The 2 most reliable meteor shower events each year are the Perseids from the end of July through most of August, and the Geminids, which are visible through the first part of December. Obviously, when it comes to seeing shooting stars, you need a clear sky, which is why the summer months are recommended for both visibility and comfort. 2025 will also see the peak of the solar cycle, and as a result, the coming year may be even better than the last when it comes to seeing the aurora. Keep watching KOBI-5 and we'll update you on the best opportunity to catch the display. The winter of 23-24 arrived late and delayed the opening of Mount Ashland Ski Park. But Andrew Gass, the general manager, says the season actually turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, it was our 60th anniversary season. Started a little bit rough. We didn't open until January 11th, but we ended up actually being in really good shape. We had 215 inches of snow and almost 100,000 skiers. So it was still a really successful season for us. It was a challenge just because we lost the entire holiday season. But when we look at the season pass sales, both last year and this year continue to build bigger and bigger. So this is the biggest sale we've ever had for season passes this year. And then obviously the second was last year.
The question on all winter recreation enthusiast minds is, how good will this winter be?
Forecast looks good so far. We'll see what happens the next couple of weeks, but the fact that we're getting a lot of moisture right now and temperatures are nice and cold, I think we're on pace for at least an on-time opening, if not early.
Last season set a record for season pass sales, and this year has already surpassed it. Some of that money went into improvements on the mountain.
This past summer was probably the biggest improvement season we've ever had, over $4 million improvements. 3 of them are huge. The brand new Lithia chairlift, which will be open sometime during the holidays. We replaced all of the night lighting that we had with brand new LEDs. And then aisle 2, which is the most narrow trail we have on the mountain, we widened that. And that's in addition to redoing the bar deck, new kitchen equipment, new lights, just a lot of little things. We invested a lot of money this year.
Although Mount Ashland is known for its skiing, it's become more than just a winter playground.
Yeah, we're really leaning into the fact, if you look at our mission statement, it doesn't specifically say skiing and snowboarding. It talks about alpine recreation. So we're really striving to be a summer hub as well as the winter. So leaning into things like running, biking, hiking, the natural ecology, and then we're also doing a lot of youth camps and youth activities too. This past year, the cafe and the bar was open, and we had the lodge open all summer.
Gass says when the snow arrives, the mountain will be ready to welcome you.
Yeah, so we're scheduled to open on December 14th, but honestly, that's just throwing a dart at the calendar. Usually it's the second Saturday in December. We'll open as soon as the snow is here. We'll be ready to go by Thanksgiving. We've opened on Thanksgiving some days.
When we come back, Chief Meteorologist Matt Jordan gives us our winter weather forecast and why we may be seeing quite a bit more snow over our mountain peaks this year.
Now, back to the winter weather special from NBC5 News.
When it comes to predicting highs and lows, rain or sunshine, calm breezes or gusty winds, meteorologists have a suite of tools and data to create a forecast for the next week. We do this on a daily basis with varying degrees of accuracy the further you go into the future. Now, when it comes to predicting expected weather for an entire season, forecasters have to use a slightly different set of tools than your everyday forecast. Now, you may have heard of them, El Nino and La Nina. Like a monsoon, El Nino and La Nina themselves are not storms or weather features alone, but more a term to refer to changes in conditions at a certain place on Earth that can affect weather throughout the entire world. Here's National Weather Service meteorologist Misty Furman with more.
El Nino and La Nina they simply refer to the warm and cool phases of the ENSO oscillation cycle that happens where there are changes in the ocean surface temperatures off the east coast of South America over the eastern Pacific.
The ENSO, or El Niño Southern Oscillation, to get a little sciencey, is a phenomenon that describes sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean, specifically off the coast of South America near the equator. So what does that have to do with our weather in the Pacific Northwest?
And that kind of directs where storms go onto the western part of the United States and ultimately across all of the United States as well.
In a typical year, or neutral ENSO year, the trade winds along the equator push warmer surface waters from the eastern Pacific off to the west towards Asia. In El Niño years, trade winds weaken. That pushes warmer waters off the coast of South America, creating a ripple effect, increasing rainfall over the tropical Pacific and reducing rainfall over Southeast Asia. In turn, this leads to a stronger storm track focused more to the south. That usually means more rain for the southeast United States, but warmer, drier conditions for the northwest. In a La Niña year, the opposite happens. Trade winds are stronger, creating cooler sea surface temperatures along the equator, increasing rainfall in Southeast Asia and pushing the storm track off to the north, into the Pacific Northwest.
In El Niño, you have a stronger storm track, and it's focused more farther south than typical, so that's why conditions tend to be wetter and warmer across like Southern California, the southern part of the United States. Whereas La Niña, the storm track is shifted farther north, so that tends to bring us more active stormy weather in across the northern part of the western United States.
As you can see, over the last 2 decades, El Niño and La Niña winters tend to flip-flop, with occasional neutral years in between. Last year saw a moderate El Niño with a fairly dry start to the winter before transitioning to more neutral or typical weather. This year, the expectation is another flip-flop.
Predicting about a 70% chance that La Niña will develop over the fall months, and then it's supposed to persist through the winter months. And that's significant for us because that's when we tend to feel the strongest effects of La Niña or El Niño across our country is during the winter months, so December, January, February.
But like any forecast, there's a margin of error, especially when predicting conditions for a quarter of the year based on how warm the water is off the coast of Peru.
We do tend to be colder here and also tend to be wetter. It doesn't guarantee it. It's kind of, you can think of it like a loaded die, if you will. It kind of tilts the odds in that favor, but it doesn't always happen. We've certainly had dry La Niña years and warmer than normal La Niña years as well.
So what does this actually mean for us? Simply put, in southern Oregon and northern California, we expect slightly cooler, slightly wetter weather for the months of December, January, and February compared to a normal year. As a matter of fact, from 2020 to early 2023, our area saw a moderate La Niña pattern 3 years in a row. That helped almost the entire West Coast out of drought conditions that had been in place since the middle of the last decade. So far this year, we've already seen some beneficial rain and mountain snow, putting a dent in the more recent drought conditions from last year's brief El Niño period. With more precipitation expected in the crucial winter months, the National Weather Service expects drought conditions to reduce or improve completely through early next year. And overall, that's good news. When we come back with more snow expected over the mountain passes, Kevin will share some tips and tricks for getting winter ready on the roads.
We're back. Already this winter has produced a once-in-a-decade storm, a bomb cyclone that brought hurricane-force winds to our coastline, downed trees, power outages, flooding, highway delays, and closures. Several feet of snow came down in our mountains, at times so thick and fast that we saw whiteout conditions. I-5 Siskiyou Summit was closed off and on for several days, delaying travelers and truckers alike. The storm created problems from Seattle to San Francisco and made national news. And the season is just getting started. Our next stories are all about winter travel safety, the common sense strategies you can employ to keep your family safe when driving this holiday season, and the latest technology available when it comes to traction devices. We'll begin tonight with Public Information Officer from the Oregon Department of Transportation, Julie Denny. The winter weather travel season is here, and the folks at ODOT have some advice for us all.
The biggest thing we want people to keep in mind is to be prepared. If you know that weather's coming, be prepared to drive in rain, to drive in snow, to drive in ice, and think about things like reducing your speed, giving yourself plenty of space between your vehicle and the vehicle ahead of you, and be prepared in case there is some type of a road closure. You may be stuck in your car for quite some time.
Part of being prepared is having an emergency kit in your car at all times.
It's going to be different for everybody, but we always recommend that people carry water, food, warm blankets and clothing, any medications you may need, and a way to signal help if you need it.
When it comes to a winter safety kit, Julie is on the right track. Blankets and warm clothing are a must-have. Some food and water and any medications you might need. You should probably have traction devices of some kind, either tire chains or a tire sock, and a cell phone and charger, plus a flashlight. You might also consider adding some kitty litter or sand to your kit. Jumper cables, an ice scraper, and a snow shovel can all come in handy in a pinch. Winter weather driving safety tips, including driving more slowly than usual, accelerating and decelerating slowly, and increasing your following distance. Avoid stopping on the snow if you can, and never use cruise control on slippery surfaces. It's also a good idea to avoid coming too close to snowplows. Make sure you have traction tires or traction devices and practice putting them on while the weather is good. You should also gather information before you head down the highway.
Before you travel, it's important to look for information about the weather, road conditions. We always recommend checking the forecast for your entire route, not just where you're starting from. And look at tripcheck.com so that you can see the specific road conditions. You can look at the cameras to see what things look like along your route, and it'll also show you how traffic is moving.
Remember that when the weather is severe, it's always best to avoid travel altogether if you can. When it comes to winter travel safety, one of the things you need to keep in mind is traction, which is why we're here at Gill's Point S Tire and Auto Service on Highway 99 in Medford to talk about one of the newest technologies to keep you safe when you're driving in the winter months.
You know, it's so easy. My grandma can do it.
Austin Roy, the manager at Point S, is talking about the newest technology for winter driving.
This is the Auto Sock. We carry the brand Auto Sock. How it works is it's essentially a bag for your tire, right? It's like walking outside and the ice in your socks. You got that grip.
Traditional tire chains and cable systems are notoriously difficult to put on, and many vehicles today are not built to take chains. These socks are the solution.
Vehicles these days there's no clearance for chains in there. You're really tight, in the fender well there. This can slide on, and actually in a lot of manuals it has it recommends an auto sock or a tire sock of some sort.
Made of Kevlar, the tire sock is tough, requires no adjustments, won't damage your rims, and they're so simple they're quickly installed in the snow and ice.
These are so easy to put on. Even if you have that low clearance, you just pop it over the top. Get it as much as you can down and around. Obviously my tire's floating, but yeah, and then you would drive forward a little bit so the other side is up, and then you're on and they're done. Just make sure you try to get it as lined up as you can.
Roy says the tire sock works as well as chains.
If on the wet and the snow and the ice, this is the way.
Thanks so much for joining us in this year's KOBI-TV NBC5 Winter Weather Special. As always, you can catch our daily forecast on NBC5 as well as KOBI-TV and online. Have a great winter.
You've been watching a special presentation from NBC5 News, the Winter Weather Special, brought to you by the Cow Creek Umpqua Tribe and Southern Oregon Subaru.